Fantastic. Hello, everyone. It feels really weird to be talking to a bunch of people I can't see, but that's the nature of virtual webinars. It's really cool to have everyone here. So welcome to our first Facts and Snacks event. I was going to ask everyone what they're having for lunch, and I was going to have a wrap, but then I thought if I say this is a wrap, it might confuse people and think that it's the end of the webinar, so I didn't do that. And on that eye roll, my name is Jamiro. I am the host of the OfferZen podcast, and I work on the content team at OfferZen. And I'm really happy to be chatting to Sumarie today. Just a brief intro. Over the next few weeks for our Facts and Snacks event series, we'll be chatting to some of South Africa's leading entrepreneurs every Thursday between 12 and 12:30. And this is our inaugural episode or inaugural event, which is quite cool. And I'm also going to announce the next speaker at the end of this webinar, so stick around for that. But for now, welcome Sumarie as our very first guest. It is such a pleasure to have you.
Wow, now I'm feeling like even more special, man. I didn't know I was the first. I was the first person so I'm your guinea pig. Whatever you don't do right this time, you'll do better next time.
Absolutely. Cool. So just some housekeeping. We're going to start off with some rapid fire questions to get a little insight into Sumarie and who she is. We'll then follow that up with some deep dive questions and then hand it over to the audience to give some of their questions in. In terms of tech specs, you can submit your questions through the Q&A functionality. So there should be a questions tab that you can just open and pop your stuff in there. And also the chat feature, feel free to chime in. We're sort of sharing what we've got for lunch at the moment. So jump in there and share some of your lunch stories. There's also a swag competition. So one lucky person will get some OfferZen swag just for joining, and we'll also announce that at the end. So get involved in the chats and questions. And finally, we also want to hear about your experience of the event. So please make sure to fill in the feedback form at the end. You'll get it in your inbox after the event. But first, as I said, Sumarie is our first guest. She is the co-founder of Naked Insurance. If you're in South Africa, you may have heard about them already, but she's spent many years in, and I quote, inside the belly of the corporate beast. She's gone through the challenges of building a startup from scratch with ambitions to change the industry that she's in. And she's also served as an actuarial advisor to many of South Africa's largest insurers. So it's very exciting to be chatting you today. And as a start, we'll jump straight into some of the rapid fire questions. So first one, what is one thing you wish more customers knew about insurance?
I always think that's an interesting one. I mean, insurance isn't the most riveting topic. And I think a lot of the younger generation these days think they don't actually need insurance. Why do you need insurance? And I think one of the things I would really wish that more people knew is how important it is to have liability cover. Now, there's two elements to it. So it's not just around having liability cover on your car. So even if you drive like an old skadonk, you could still crash into a Porsche or something like that. And if it's your fault, they can make you pay for that for very many years to come. And you don't want to be in that position. So, and the same with if you are, your dog bites someone. So if you buy contents cover, it's not just about buying contents cover, but it's actually having that liability protection as well. And I think as the South African society gets more litigious, it is going to get more and more important to actually make sure you have at least liability insurance in place.
Absolutely, and I think it's one of those things that you only really come to appreciate once you've had to go through and claim. So rather than have that first experience, rather get up early.
Yeah.
So, and what's one piece of advice that you'd give to entrepreneurs hoping to disrupt or enter a traditional industry?
Yeah, I think it's a lot harder to actually enter a big existing industry like the insurance industry. So I always think it's important to know exactly what it is that you want to improve or disrupt, so to speak. Yeah. Because these industries have been around for hundreds of years, so they must be doing some things right. So not to be too arrogant about it, but actually to be 100% clear. Like at Naked, when we started Naked, we were very clear in terms of the fact that we believe the current industry, although we have one of the best industries in the world, and I still believe that, is not serving the needs of the modern digital customer well enough. So that is what we wanted to focus on. And the other thing that we think that this conflict of interest, where every rand they pay you in claims is a rand less profit that they make, is something that we wanted to improve. So that's what I normally tell people. And make sure it's something you're passionate about when you find that thing you want to improve.
And diving into a little bit more insights into you as an individual, what is one of the most worthwhile investments you've ever made? It could be money, time, energy.
Yeah, anyone who knows me will probably be able to answer this question. I think as you go through your career, the thing that has helped me the most is never to forget to build those personal relationships and the connections as you go through your career. Because whenever you want to do something amazing, you need an amazing group of people around you. And they're not just all of a sudden gonna miraculously appear if you haven't been working on building those contacts and connections as you go. Yeah.
Super, super, super interesting. And then if you could only work for 2 hours per week on your business, what would you do or focus on?
I don't even know how I would only work that little on it. I'm far too passionate about it. I'm far too passionate about it. My husband believes it's like my hobby. Everything. It's my work, my hobby, because it just takes so much of my time. But if I only had that small amount of time, I would definitely focus it on making sure that I get feedback from my help desk team in terms of what are the latest and greatest things that they think we need to add to the offering and help to refine the roadmap of our product build, because we still got a lot of things we're planning on doing, and how we decide what to do next. And that is really, really important, is what our customers are telling us. So I would spend that 2 hours making sure that I never lose sight of that.
Super interesting. And then zooming out again, back to the industry perspective. If you had to name one thing, what in your view is most broken about the traditional insurance model?
Yeah, I think I kind of touched on this as well. I mean, like you said, I spent a very large number of years actually working with pretty much most of the insurers in the industry, and including advising them on how to get ready for the new modern digital customer. Now, what became abundantly clear to myself and my other co-founders is that the current systems that they've got is really old, and they were designed to always have a person between the customer and the system. So to have the customer transact directly on that system is really, really difficult. It's not impossible, but it would be extremely costly. And as soon as you do that, omni-channel, they have the call centers, the customer want to do that as well. So we decided the only way to actually do something about that is to build everything from scratch. And to right from the beginning know that you want your customer to self-service. So that's one of the things. And the other thing is what I also touched on, in the sense that why do so many people not like their insurer? If you talk, especially short-term insurance, it's a very much a grudge purchase. People don't like the insurance company. They do it because they have to. And a large reason for that is this whole way in which the business model operates. That how does an insurer make money? They make their money in the difference between what they get in and what they pay out in claims. And insurance is like a really weird product if you think about it. You don't know what you're buying. It's not like picking up a cell phone, feeling it, thinking, oh, I like it. You don't know what you're buying until the day you actually come and you claim. And on that day, when your product for the first time shows you what it's all about, you are really in a direct conflict with your insurer, because every rand that they pay you is a rand that they take off their bottom line. And that is one of the things we believe is making insurance less effective than it can actually be.
That is such a cool segue into the deep dive questions coming up now. So this is like really diving a bit more into Naked Insurance and what you're all about. And I think one of the things I wanted to chat about in this Facts and Snacks series was Naked was one of the first to allow customers to like downgrade and upgrade their cover using the app. And you have this very like customer-centric focus while still trying to create a sustainable business. And before the pandemic, that was super important. But moving through the pandemic, it's been critical to you and your core business function. So, like, could you just tell me a bit about like what else did Naked do to help customers while still building a sustainable business?
So I think just leading on, like you said, it actually leads on very naturally from what I just said. So the first question, I remember when I went through this and told my husband, I don't want to work in insurance anymore. Everyone hates it. I got to a point where I didn't even tell people that I work in insurance. Yeah. He asked me, is insurance not needed? And I told him, of course, insurance is needed. It just needs a bit of work. And our main aim at Naked is to build insurance that people actually like. And I know that sounds like a very low bar, but actually to get to a point where people actually like their insurer is actually quite a challenge. And therefore, everything that we do always puts what will improve the customer journey and the customer experience first. So when we, the approach that we used is very much similar to the recommendations of Lean Startup. So we started with a minimum viable product, which in insurance is a little bit tougher because it's still a financial services industry, but we didn't build everything from scratch. So we actually got a lot of input from our customers right throughout in order to decide what we should build and what their biggest pain points are. So before we started, one of the things that a lot of people complained about is one, that it takes so long to get an insurance quote, that it actually, you have to spend, to get one quote, it takes like 40 minutes. And if you do get that quote, people never stop phoning you. They'll phone you for weeks after to still try and sell you that particular policy. And then once you've gone through that process, you actually have to drive your car somewhere so that they can see it and inspect it. And if you have and if you then want to say you bought a new car and you want to take it off the dealership floor, you have to spend another half an hour on the phone to try and get your cover confirmation for your finance provider. So we started off focusing very much on that. And so with us, as you know, you can get a binding car quote, not a quick quote, a real quote within 90 seconds, and you can be covered within 3 minutes. You select your start date and you're done. You also do your own pre-inspection when and where you want to, because you do it with your phone. And I think one of the things our customers have really liked about this buying process is they can do it whenever they want. And they don't have to speak to anyone. So I've got guys buying car insurance at 1 o'clock in the morning, which I don't know who or what would like to buy car insurance then, but it's just that convenience factor that they get. And then even if you look at things like how do we collect our payments, we only work with credit or debit card. And the reason we do that is that you can instantly transact on the system. So if you've bought and you think, well, I forgot to put car hire on or something like that, you can go onto the app, you add your car hire, I hit your card for the pro rata premium for the month, and your car hire is immediately active. You don't have to speak to anyone. So most of the focus that we've had was actually to every part of the journey to make it something that people actually find fun and enjoyable rather than grudge.
What I love, and it almost in hindsight, asking the question seemed a bit weird, but just hearing you talk now, like your customer focus and sustainable business seem to go hand in hand. It's like if you take that time to like understand what is the pain point of a customer, that is building a more sustainable business. And like it's crazy to to see the difference that tech makes in that, because it enables so much. As you said, it's easy to get insurance, in 3 minutes, which previously, the insurance industry hasn't been so tech forward, and they haven't front loaded insurance with, technology and stuff that people use on their phones, so that if they want, they can do it at 1 a.m. in the morning, each to their own, I guess. That's really interesting to hear. And I guess, it makes sense if you actually take that time to speak to people, be like, hey, what's your biggest pain point? Build that in first. Don't try and assume what people want to have. So that's really interesting.
Yeah.
And thank you, summed it up nicely.
No, maybe just two extra small things about that. Is, in my experience, I think one of the things, everyone talks about being customer centric and thinking about the customer, but I have found too many people worry too much about what their competitors are doing rather than worrying about what the customer wants. And I think for me, that's very, very important. Don't get distracted by what your competitors are doing. If you give the customer what they want, it doesn't matter what the competitors are doing. It's irrelevant.
Why is that so important to you?
Because over the years, like I said, all these board meetings that I have been attending and listening to all senior people in insurance speak, very little ever gets spoken about what does the customer want. It's always about, have you seen what Santam is doing? Or did you see Outsurance just launched this? And I think it totally distracts you from your goal. And I think in general, the focus should be more on what the customer wants. And the majority of discussions within the company should be around that, not what competitors are doing, which I've seen in my experience is normally what happens.
Right. And also central to your customer experience is artificial intelligence and machine learning. And I was wondering if you could just tell me a bit more about why those things solve the problem that you're trying to solve at Naked Insurance.
I think in insurance, data has always been an integral part to it, historically, right from the beginning. And that's why you've always had actuaries heavily involved, building pricing models, et cetera. And up until now, most of those models have been built using more traditional techniques like GLM parameterized models. But now where we are, the amount of data that you can collect on a modern system is so much more, and you can use so much more sophisticated techniques that I think it's just a huge opportunity to actually integrate that into your system. So when we developed our system, we actually developed it with AI and machine learning in mind right from the beginning. And the way in which we are applying it is to improve every portion of the customer journey. Say, for example, in terms of claims, we gather a large amount of information because when you have a claim with us, you go onto the app, you do a selfie, you tell us what happened, etc. If we pick up sufficient markers that there's nothing to be worried about, then we can just fast track that claim and you can get settled very quickly. And it really improves the customer experience of the claim. It also saves money because you don't have an unnecessary process that you take the customer through, which then in the end flows through to better premiums for the customer. So it kind of, all of these things coherently make sense and give the customer a much better price product and also a much better experience as they are dealing with us. So we definitely, and as we gather more and more information and as we can calibrate our self-learning models better, it will just continue improving that customer experience and that customer journey, whether it's underwriting, whether it's in the pre-inspection, whether it's claims, whatever it might be.
So just before we jump into the audience Q&As, could you briefly give an idea of if data gives you this opportunity with machine learning, like what are some of those opportunities for you as a business going forward? What are some of the stuff you see yourself being able to do?
Like I said, now, I mean, the the most important thing is that it needs to delight the customer, whatever we do. That's always before we build anything, before we implement something, we ask, is it going to make our lives easier, or is it going to, but not, the customer won't even know that it is doing anything. Then that one normally goes to the back of the backlog. It won't go to the front. But if it's going to improve the customer experience, it goes right up there. And as I said, there's so much more that we can do in terms of, we will continue pushing to fast track as many claims as we can, so that you can actually get settled and your claim can be approved within seconds of reporting it. And as we get more and more data, this is one of our key focus areas. Also, in terms of if your car, for example, there's so much that we're still planning to do in the claims process. If you've had an accident on your vehicle, for example, that your car doesn't have to be assessed by an assessor, that basically, based on the photographs that you pop through on the app, we can actually assess the damage, book your panel beater. There's all those kind of things that we are currently very much focused on to improve the experience that the customer have, especially at that point where they actually getting what they paid for. When they actually come to claim, which is what they bought the policy for in the first place.
Yeah, and like you said, the cost efficiencies of both time and money help. You can actually loop that back to making the experience better and cheaper for customers, which is just
exactly.
That tech is helping push that.
That is definitely one of our big objectives, is to actually be able to bring insurance to a bigger portion of the market. Because of the fact that we don't have as people heavy back end. Yeah.
Cool. So audience, please drop your questions in the questions tab on this thing. I will jump straight into tackling some of them. So Robin wants to know, Sumarie, if you'd be so kind, what is next for Naked, and how do you innovate in the insurance industry apart from like great tech that you've deployed?
If you ask in terms of what are we looking at next in terms of product, at the moment, one of our big focuses is our API, our insurance API. We believe that customer journeys are changing. I mean, the way that people are buying cars and whether it is devices, cars, furniture, whatever it is changing. And you want to be there at the right moment of truth to offer them insurance in an extremely convenient way. So one of the big things like I said, that we are looking at the moment is partnerships, as well as perfecting our APIs.
Super. And then Ben is keen to hear, is Naked profitable yet? And if so, how long did it take to get there?
Anyone who knows insurance will know that after we launched to the public in April of 2018, so insurers normally take quite a while to become cash flow positive because of the fact that you have quite a large amount of new business strain. So no, we're not there yet, but we're planning to be there soon.
Super. And then Lisa asked, what process or system do you have in place to prevent a customer from logging a fraudulent claim?
Well, that is quite a difficult question to answer because there's so many aspects to it. So
that's how we like him.
What we try and do is actually there's different ways in which you can handle your claims. You can either go through a very cumbersome process at the claim stage, or you can make sure that you already have most of the information that you need to make sure that, for example, the item actually exists, that it's not damaged already, what the value of the thing is before.
Right.
And that's why we place so much emphasis on our pre-inspection process. So we make sure that after you've bought, that you send us your car video, that, for example, if you insure your device, that you take a photo for us like this, that we have your IMEI number, all those kind of things, so that we know the item exists, because that's one of the things with that's potential with fraudulent claims. And then, of course, we also make use of, like I said, of our machine learning and AI during our claims selfie process to try and pick up certain markers as to how the person is telling their version of the events.
It's so interesting to hear like the different challenges that pop up with more of like a tech forwards app. That's really interesting. And then Chris wants to know, has your actuarial approach changed significantly for younger and more tech savvy customers?
I'm not 100% sure I understand in terms of, are you talking about the pricing approach? If you say actuarial approach?
I don't know if Chris wants to drop that in the questions, but I think let's take it from a pricing approach, or maybe even from a, from a pricing approach, I guess, then. Let's see.
Yeah, because I mean, normally, if you do traditional underwriting, so if you phone into a call center, they will ask you about 40 to 45 questions that they then base their rates on. Yeah. Anyone who's gone through our quote process, no, we only ask you about 8 questions, and then we collect a large amount of data from external databases. But in addition, you are capturing 500 plus additional data points on you before you actually get your quote. I know what speed you're going through. I know if you're clicking back. I know if you're changing some of your answers. I know where you came from. And all those additional pieces of information is being fed into our engine that then determines your price as well.
Right. And Chris also just added also from like a risk approach, from a risk point of view.
Our actuarial guys are involved in also I'm trying to think, how do we position this? So from a risk point of view, your risk determines your premium. So I guess that answers exactly the same question. So the more risky you are, the higher premium you'll pay. And we use all those pieces of information in our actuarial models to determine how risky you are.
Right. Cool. And then Stephen wants to know, you're doing a lot to make a pretty broken thing better. How can we as the tech community help you on your mission?
So we are a technology company that happen to be selling insurance. That's how I always position us. So the bulk of our team consists of developers and guys who do AI and machine learning. We have a very small a different component to our team. So if the tech community wants to help, I'm always looking for really good developers. If you want to work in a really modern stack, and also tell other people about us. The biggest portion of our sales still come from word of mouth, and telling your friends to go try us out. That will definitely help us. Or send your CV if it's really good to OfferZen, and then to me.
Solid plug. And then just on a final question before we run out of time, Steele wants to know if you think that COVID has accelerated the movement to digitization and on-demand insurance.
Absolutely. That is abundantly clear to me in terms of how I've seen some of our competitors trying to also react to it. To be honest, I mean, our cover pause feature, why we put it in originally was just to demonstrate. It was a proof point to show that you can transact directly on the system for new customers. But I think it's definitely going to speed up the change in the industry in terms of using technology. Yeah.
Fantastic. That's so interesting. Well, thanks to Sumarie and the audience for their questions. I really like the way Ben put it. I think he saw it tweeted the other day. But thanks for showing us how to get naked. In terms of our swag winner, and I hope I pronounce this correctly, so do bear with me. But Ratin Ugara, we'll be in touch with you to hand over your swag hamper and ship it in the coming days. Our swag is on its way. And then otherwise, our next speaker, same time, not the same place, technically the same place, but different link, will be Alexandria Proctor, who is the founder and CEO of Digs Connect. It's like a student housing app. They've been doing some pretty cool stuff. And Alexandria is also quite a character, so definitely quite a fun person to chat to. When the event ends, we'll redirect you to that event page in case you would like to register. But thank you, Sumarie. It was so cool meeting you.
And you can throw some of your swag my way as well. I have a T-shirt that I have been wearing for over a year from OfferZen.
We need a
but
refresh.
another new one. Yeah.
Sounds good. But cool. Thanks to everyone.
It was lovely. Thanks for the opportunity. Really,
sure.
it was awesome.
Cool. See everyone next week, I guess.
Cheers, guys.